Exercise 2.1, CAD 117. I've got my B-size title block open, and my interface is set up with my pull-down menus enabled, and with my taskbar set to read the words down on the bottom. To enable the toolbar, I'll select this pull-down area here, and I will make sure that the menu bar is enabled. I'll disable it, and then I'll re-enable it. The other thing I'm going to do is show you how to set up the object snaps by using or disabling the use icons. I'm going to switch over to model space, and we're going to take a look at the exercises at the end of chapter 2. These are basic front, top, and right side views that we're going to create. And what we're going to do is we're going to create the front view of this, and then we're going to create an extrusion and a three-dimensional model of each of these. So to begin, we'll start off in model space, and I'll start by doing this exercise here, exercise 1. And the way it's set up is that each of these squares is 1/4 of an inch. And so what we'll do is we'll count squares. We'll make this 1 inch by 3/4 of an inch by 1/2 inch by 1 inch by 3/4, etc. We'll start off on our object line layer, and we'll enable our snap, and we will check the settings for our snap, and we will set the snap at 0.25, and we will also set the grid at 0.25. We'll OK that, and we'll start at this node, and the node is the 0 location. If I hover over it, or if I come over to a utility and select ID point, I can identify this point right here as absolute 0. And so we're going to put that on the bottom left-hand corner of the part. To get started, we'll select the line command, select that point, and we'll start off by going 1 inch high, 3/4 of an inch over, 1/2 an inch up. You'll notice that the O snap is running as well because I'm getting this square at the endpoints, and I'm going to disable that at this time. I don't need it since I have a regular grid and snap established. You'll notice that as I track out, it gives me the measurement of the part. And I'll come back to the point of origin and hit escape. Now that I have the front view drawn, rather than draw the top view, or I think what we will do is we will draw the top and right side view, and then we'll create the model. So the top view of this is going to be looking down on this perspective. And orthographic projection states that these views between the front view and the top view and the right side view will line up. And so we'll start off with the top view, and the top view is going to be 1 inch in depth. And so we'll come over, we'll project up from this point to this point here, and we'll bring that 1 inch. We'll make it the width of the part, 2.5 inches. And then we'll project these corners to the top view, and they will show us lines. So that's the top and the right side and the front view. We'll do the right side view, and the right side view is the same depth. It's also 1 inch. So we'll come over here. It will be the same height. And we'll project over this visible line here, and this will be a hidden line, and we can switch over to the hidden line layer and then project that over. I'm going to move over my image of the exercises. We're going to switch over to paper space, double click in the viewport, and then we're going to set that view and the scale at full size. Now you'll notice that as I set it, I still can see some of my work examples, and so I'll need to move those over a little bit more. Once I've set the viewport at full scale, I'm going to lock it, and so I'm going to select this lock icon, and then I'm going to put my dimensions on. I'll go to the Annotate tab, I'll select my dimension, and I'm going to use OSNAP for this. Now it's coming in on the hidden line layer, and so I'm going to set that layer to be on my dimension layer. And you'll notice that I have a toolbar here. I like to use toolbars on the interface. I find it faster than navigating my way through all the different menus. To enable a toolbar, what you will do is you'll go to Tools, Toolbars, ACAD, and what I have enabled is the Layer and the Properties toolbar. So for example, if I wanted to enable a Draw toolbar, I could select that, and now I have enabled that over here on the side, and I can place that and dock that as I see fit. I'm not going to use that right now, so I'm going to turn that off. But using toolbars with the ribbon is a nice way to keep everything, make it a little bit more efficient so I don't have to go through all the menus. Put a height dimension. Now I'm not going to go through the entire video and dimension the part. That will be your job. But you can see the technique. We have our front view, our top view, and our right side view. And we're going to create a model. We'll go to the Model tab. And what I want to do is I want to look at which view I can use to best create this three-dimensional image. Now these are isometric drawings, or at least that's what they look like from on paper. What we're going to do is create a model of it, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to copy this front view over to the side, and then we're going to use an extrude command to give it a thickness. And so we'll come over here to our Home tab, we will copy. I don't need the dimensions, so I'm going to shift click on them so it doesn't select them. I'm going to move it from this point, and I'm going to move it to some location, let's say right here. Now once I have that copy established, I'm going to switch over my workspace from drafting and annotation to 3D modeling. I'm going to change my view to an isometric view. And I'm going to create a layer. I'm just going to type layer for the 3D model geometry. New, 3D. I'll make that this color blue. I'll set that as current. I will use press pull. Press pull is a good command because it combines a couple of other commands. It turns the line geometry into a polyline or a region. In other words, it creates a closed boundary shape, and then it allows you to extrude that to a thickness. And so it does two things in one command. I'll hover inside the area that will acquire the geometry, and then I'll specify the height, 1.0, and I've created that part. It's a little bit confusing because it's a wireframe, and what we can do is we can change a different visual style by going to the View tab, selecting a different visual style here, and I'm going to use conceptual. I'm also going to rotate this to this type of perspective, and so I'm going to come back here to my Home tab. on the 3D modeling, and I'm going to choose 3D rotate. I'm going to click on the part, hit enter, and I'm going to put this, it's called a gizmo, down at the lower left hand corner. And the red axis is my x-axis, and you can see my UCS icon here. The green axis is my y, and the red and the blue is the z. And so once I have selected the base point for rotation, I will next choose a rotational axis, and I'm going to rotate it about this red axis. And then I'm going to move it over to the side. You'll notice that the geometry is still there from the original. I don't need this anymore. It's called a sketch, and so I'm going to delete that out. Now I have my three-dimensional model and my two-dimensional work, and I'm going to put them on the title block in a viewport. So I'm going to switch over to my title block, and this is what's known as paper space. And paper space, if I double click outside of the viewport, will give me this right triangle. I'm going to switch back over to my drafting and annotation tab, enable my viewport layer, and then I'm going to create a viewport, and I'm going to do that by enabling my menu bar and selecting View, Viewports, One Viewport, and then I will create a viewport. And I'm going to make sure that it exceeds or goes out of the boundary. I'm going to turn off my OSnap of my existing viewport. This red line is my existing viewport. I'll double click in that. I'll bring my model into view. I will set up a isometric view. And a visual style for that. Last thing that I'm going to do is to turn off the viewport layer. I'm going to lock this layer before I do, and so I'll come into this viewport, lock it, double click outside of the viewport, and then go back to my layers command. I'll enable a different layer, and then I will turn off my viewport layer. We're going to use this method to do the other examples in exercise 2.1. I will name this exercise 2.1. And this will be drawing 1. Don't forget to put your name on it. And that completes exercise 1.